You believe that America is the land of opportunity. Apollo Creed does. And he's gonna prove it to the whole world by giving an unknown a shot at the title. And that unknown is you. It's the chance of a lifetime. You can't pass it by.
His name is Rocky. His whole life was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot.
Time, kid. Let's go.
My mother, she said you weren't born much of a body, so you better develop your brain.
The electricity is all over the place tonight as Rocky Balboa.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years, and 6 years you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come.
You want to know?
I want to know how!
Because you had the talent to become a good fighter.
How about I wait here and you fight?
Aping is a loser.
No, you're looking very great today, you know that?
Rocky. His whole life was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot.
Ability, right? Everything's staying in shape, right? Right, you're gonna stay in shape. Everything good, right? Absolutely. Absolutely.
No pain.
How you doing, guys? How are you doing today? Welcome back to this channel called Blast in the Past. And this time around, I would like to have a short review of a film called, this is not Rocky. This is not the Rocky franchise, no, by no means, so don't be fooled by this, what we have here. Actually, it will be a review of the new film Creed 3, so the first one in the franchise. As you probably know, I'm not the biggest fan of it, of the last one, because, I'm not in there. But, absolutely. I think it's worth talking about still, despite all the controversies, etc. So, I think it's worth watching if you are a fan of this franchise. If you like this spin-off, sub-franchise, we could call it like that, right? Absolutely. So, please bear in mind that although it's Rocky here, right? Rocky Balboa, the Italian Stallion. It's not about Rocky, not anymore. It's about Adonis Creed, and it's Creed 3, a review of Creed 3, the new film directed by Michael B. Jordan, not only starring Michael B. Jordan. So this is very interesting. Please stay tuned, alright? Absolutely. You, Adrian.
Absolutely. You, Adrian.
By the way, what you can see in here on the display is this Rocky Undisputed collection available on Blu-ray. All 6 films, from Rocky 1 to Rocky Balboa. All 6 parts, And this is really worth watching, worth having this collection, because it's on Blu-ray. I know that 4 parts have been released on the 4K format, but the whole collection, in the best quality, is available right now only on Blu-ray. And it's really worth having, because the quality is really good, really decent. Of course, the newer the films, the better the picture quality. You have to be aware of that. This is obvious, yes, absolutely, this is obvious. But have a look at this picture, for example, here. Have a look at the picture quality, right? So maybe let me play it a little bit. So you see, this is the beginning of Rocky, the first one, from 1976. Right, you can see, one of the first fights there. Stallone, right, we're in a very good shape, isn't he? Yeah? Isn't he in a very good shape? Yeah, don't you think so? Right? Right, and there is this grain. But there's this filmic grain.
Take home an American hero. Own them all today.
Because, it was filmed on a reel film. On a reel, so there has to be some filmic grain. But this is normal, typical of the cinema from the 1970s, the 1980s, maybe even the 1990s. And this is great. This is not artificial. No DNR, compression, whatever. There's nothing. And if there are some artifacts, it's natural. So this grain, it is natural filmic grain. It has to be like that, I suppose. So it adds to the charm, to this retro vibe. Alright, but without further ado, let's move on to Creed 3, because this is what this review is about. It's not about Rocky, one of the greatest franchises ever known, and ever seen, and ever experienced in terms of the American cinema, but it's about Creed 3, right? After all.
And the winner is Rocky, Irwin Winkler and Robert Chardoff, producers.
Alright, so the storyline in Creed 3 goes like this. Adonis Creed is now retiring from boxing after having achieved almost everything there was in this world, in the world of boxing. He decided to hang up the gloves and resign for the sake of his own health, and he's around 36, 37, so for a boxer it's a very old age. unless you are like Big George Foreman, who was very strong in his 40s still. But
the winner, and once again, heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman.
There are very, very few examples like this, yeah, so it's obvious. And he decides to focus on his family. He has his own protege also to train. So he's still a busy man. He runs his own gym and his own boxing club. He has a handful, really, in terms of tasks, in terms of duties. However, there's another plot line, so it's his old friend from the past, and he saved him from doing time, we could say. At least that's what he thinks. So he took the blame for him, he took the fall. And now he comes back from prison, he's released, and he wants to claim back what is his. So the title in boxing. He wants to have another shot at the boxing title, because in the past, so he was like the role model for Adonis Creed. Well, quite a role model, yes, a criminal. But you have to see what happens next, because he's a nobody in this world. So how come, whether he gets a chance to fight for a big stake or not, and if he gets it, how it happens. So you have to watch it, you have to see it to know. The story may not be very credible because it's rather atypical for a complete nobody, somebody completely anonymous to receive the shot for the title. But you know, on the other hand, so have a look at the first Rocky film. So what happened there? He was a nobody, just some Italian stallion with a fancy nickname. And Apollo Creed decided to bet on him, because that was a last minute change, a last minute call. And it didn't end up well for him, for Apollo Creed. Or maybe, well, it did and it didn't, it depends. From the point of view. On the one hand, so, you know, he had a very fierce enemy, then the enemy turned into a friend, and then, you know, in number 4, so something horrible happened. And now we have his son, Adonis Creed, continuing the legacy. So you never know, yeah, depending on the point of view, and depending on the part of the franchise. Anyhow, so this is, in brief, in a nutshell, the storyline of Creed 3. And some skeletons in the closet which don't want to stay there in the closet, but they are taken out of the closet.
Hey, my man, can I help you? Let me get an autograph. Nah, I ain't signing no autographs, but you get off my car.
Alright, so this time around, in the part number 3 of the franchise, of this spin-off, Creed, so it's a bit darker. The tone of the film is more dramatic. It's about the ghosts of the past hunting us, so it is a bit gloomier, darker, more ominous than the previous ones and than the Rocky franchise. And quite surprisingly, it was directed by the star of the film, so Michael B. Jordan, you know, so by the actor. So basically, he directed himself, like Stallone, in some of the parts of the franchises of Rocky or Rambo as well. So, you know, some people could say that it was like a vanity project, yes? Like a pet project, also a vanity project. You know, if you direct yourself, so you want to be presented in the best light possible, you know, in terms of your physique, so the shots need to be very favorable to you, etc. So this is obvious, especially if you have something to show off with, like the musculature, like your muscles, like the posture, the musculature, the muscle tissue, the bulging muscles. So this is obvious that you want the shots to be favorable, and the camera angles, yes. And there are some infamous stories about Rambo 2, for example, how it was filmed, and apparently Ghost directed by Stallone. So of course Stallone is a great guy, but you know, he tried to stroke his ego a little bit with the shots, you know, running shirtless, bare-chested, presenting his bulging muscles while firing that machine gun or whatever that was. So you can imagine, right? Because in a boxing ring it's obvious that you don't wear a t-shirt or a shirt or anything, or a sleeveless shirt. Yeah, so you are half naked, whether you like it or not. But this is the boxing ring, and not a battlefield. So that was interesting. Alright, but actually in terms of directing of the film, so it's directed pretty well. So there are very imaginative shots and sequences in the boxing ring. So there are slow motion sequences, somebody punches another one in the kidneys, then it moves like this and like that, and the camera moves slowly, there is a slow motion, and it's presented from different angles, and this is something new, this is something atypical. But apparently, so Michael B. Jordan is a big fan of anime, and he was inspired by some anime series like anime like Naruto, for example, and with the fights, you know. So a lot of slower sequences, a lot of slow motion, very imaginative, some additional extra things, and I have to say that was something out of the box, absolutely, absolutely. So it wasn't down to earth. It wasn't as realistic as in the Rocky franchise, for better or worse, but at least it was something new, a little bit. Something out of the box, something creative. Whether it's the good direction for the franchise or not, so I'm not pretty sure, but at least he tried to introduce some variety, some novelty into the directing of this film. So, chapeau bas. You know, it's better to try something and fail than not to try at all. Don't you think so? Yeah. So, this is obvious. So, once again, I have to give kudos to Michael B. Jordan, because that was pretty interesting. Those camera movements and some other interesting things and takes, camera angles, how swiftly, how well it moved from one point to another, presenting the fighters, the stances, the punches, and here and there, you know, here and there. And that added an additional layer to the fights, to the battles on the boxing ring. So really, there was one haymaker after another, and the camera moves in and out, and zooms in and out, and presents the whole thing, and then it closes up on the fighters, on the boxers. So really, thumbs up for directing the film this way. Really good job. According to the average rating and the scores and the reviews available on the internet on many websites, so Creed 3 is the worst of the franchise. Because right now on IMDb, so it has the average rating of around 6.3, while the previous ones, they have the rating around 7 out of 10. So it's a big difference, and many people claim that it's too dark, too predictable, not interesting, not captivating enough. It doesn't have the soul, the heart and the guts of the Rocky franchise or even the previous Creed films. And you know, that's why my expectations were very low. So before I saw the film, I hadn't been expecting too much, and maybe that's why I was pleasantly surprised, really. So the first 8 minutes, because it's almost 2 hours, a 2-hour long film, 1 hour 54 minutes, let's say. So I remember like looking at the wristwatch with a surgical precision. So the first 80 minutes, so it was a pretty captivating, really, very interesting. But you know, later on,
You going home now, little Donnie?
when it finally does come to the final fight, the ultimate bout between the two enemies, so it's pretty anticlimactic, unfortunately. There is not enough tension, although the final clash is filmed pretty well and in a very imaginative way. There is just not enough tension in it, and it feels so rushed at the final stage. So before, the pacing is really fine, really, absolutely, the pacing is fine at the beginning and later on after the first hour, but then something falls apart. I don't know what happens later on. It's just not as good, not as interesting as the first part of the film for some reason. So that's a shame, because otherwise probably people would have ranked it better if it were more consistent with the tone, with this fluency, with this flow of the narrative. Unfortunately, something happens later on. And like I said, so the final clash of the Titans, it is anticlimactic, unfortunately. Maybe not enough at stake. I have no idea. I'm not a screenwriter, I don't know how to improve it. But all in all, I think on the whole, so the script is not as bad as people claim, really. I think that you should cut Creed 3 some slack. It deserves a little bit better. You know, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this Creed franchise. So of course I love the original one, the Rocky films, all of them. I think that even number 5 is very good. So I have a huge weak spot for this one, for all of them. It's a very important part, substantial part of my childhood, and all the training montages, which were perfected in number 4, I think. So this is like a great video clip. One great hit after another, really. So there is very little in terms of the plot in number 4. When he fights Ivan Drago, but the video clips, the training montages, Hearts on Fire, this is so invigorating and so energizing, so hands down I think in this case, so it's like a fantastic video clip, like on MTV in the 1990s, you know.
I must break you.
The Creed film, so even though the first one it has a pretty good average rating, I saw it at the cinema. The second one I saw it also, but at home, in the comfort of my home, so I remember that I wasn't very blown away by it. No, by no means, it was no Rocky. And actually, maybe the fact that Sylvester Stallone is no longer with the franchise. He's not in Creed 3 because he's had a falling out with Irvin Winkler, the producer, so maybe it's for better actually, because now Creed is a standalone film, so you do not compare the franchise to the previous ones. Because if you compare Creed number 1, 2 or 3 with the previous ones, so to me, hands down, there's no comparison. The Rocky films are the Rocky films, and this is a high standard. The Creed franchise, it can't hold the proverbial candle in comparison with Rocky, so come on, let's be serious, what are we even talking about here?
Stallion, Rocky,
However, in the third one, since there is no Stallone, there is no Rocky, so you can consider it as a separate entity, so maybe that's what helped me, because I wasn't comparing it, even subconsciously, to the Rocky franchise. Maybe that's why I liked it much better than the average viewer. Really, maybe there is something into it that now it's its own separate franchise, it goes its own separate ways, without being connected to Stallone. Maybe it's for the better, actually. Absolutely, I have no idea. You know, you gotta admit that Michael B. Jordan is probably in his best shape ever, physically. So bulging muscles, ripped to the bone, shredded, everything is there, the whole 9 yards. So this is fantastic. Really, you can see that he was inspired by Stallone. Arguably, Stallone looked his best in Rocky 4 and Rambo 3. Some people claim that Rocky 3 actually was his best shape, but I think that Rocky 4, when he fights Ivan Drago, and Rambo 3, that period of time. Because he was extremely muscular and ripped and lean and shredded to the bone. And I think that Michael B. Jordan is following suit with his physique. So this is also very nice. So this is like passing the proverbial baton, continuing the heritage, the legacy. So this is like paying homage to Stallone in terms of the physique also. That Michael B. Jordan wants to improve with every single outing. And he wants to also be the director of the films, like he is in the third one. And you can see that it was his passion project, his pet project, his labor of love, with the way he directed it. Like I said, the camera angles, camera movement, swift movements and the slow motion. That was a very interesting take on this regular, typical boxing formula. So to come back to it, Michael B. Jordan's physique and his opponent's physique, so they are both very well built and ripped and shredded to the bone and shredded to the gills, so this is very admirable. Unfortunately, the training montages, which were the staple in the Rocky films, and they were so memorable and so unforgettable. In Creed, especially number 3, so it's pretty skippable and pretty forgettable. So nothing to write home about. Of course, both guys, they look fantastic. They are arguably in their prime, but there is nothing characteristic about it. So I won't be coming back to them. But the ones from all the Rocky films, like 1, 2, 3, 4, especially the first one, and the third one and the fourth one, I think, the most memorable ones. So this is something you could come back to anytime you want to be full of energy, you want to be motivated to pump iron at the gym, harder and harder, you know, no pain, no gain. Especially number 4. I think that number 1, because of this huge sentiment, and number 4. But on the other hand, you have the Eye of the Tiger in number 3, so there's always something in every single part of the franchise. But on the other hand, maybe the times have changed. So those a little bit tacky and kitschy montages would have no place in the modern cinema. Maybe that's the point, I don't know. The old ones are fantastic, but maybe this is not the right time. Maybe they should be left where they started, so in the 70s, 80s and the 90s. And this is like the product of its era, or those decades. And maybe there is no place for them anymore, I don't know. I don't know about the training montages, or actually this main one in Creed 3. I would say that it underperforms, unfortunately. Nothing spectacular about it. You see, this is the training I'm talking about. You can feel the power, the energy, and of course there is the fanfare also, when Rocky keeps punches in training and he runs. So this is very energizing, unlike in Creed 3. So you can feel pure power and energy. I know, this is gonna fly now. Oh, copyright, be careful kids. But this is gonna fly now. The training montage, the original one from Rocky. This is fantastic. Alright, so let's mute it. Unfortunately. Because copyrights, but still. This is the classic training montage from the first Rocky, 1976. This is what I'm talking about. You can feel the boost of energy already. You know, you want to go into the ring or into the gym and pump iron, do your best, you know, put one hacker or throw the punches already, beat the opponent, beat the crap out of the opponent. So this is what I'm talking about, you know. This is the training montage. Unlike this thing in the Creed 3, which is very typical, nothing special about it. It was very basic. This is memorable. This is a classic. This is what I'm talking about. This is the training montage if you want to lift heavy, right? So that's why it's good to have this collection also to come back to. All in all, maybe Creed 3 hasn't fared well with the critics because the scores are not very high, the ratings. However, it has earned a lot of money. It has earned enough probably to continue this franchise and to have the part number 4 or a spin-off, because there is this Drago spin-off coming. You know, so Creed 3 cost around $75 million to make, and it grossed around $274 million at the box office worldwide. So it's a big success. Well, good for them. Like I said, so I don't agree with those negative opinions that it's 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10. I think it's decent enough. I'm not the biggest fan of Creed, the franchise, per se. So maybe I'm a little biased, and also my expectations have been very low before I watched the film, so maybe that's that.
Don't let him destroy everything you've built.
I just simply hadn't been expecting too much, so maybe that's why. But I must say that I was pleasantly surprised with the outcome. Apart from the last 20-30 minutes, when it's very anticlimactic, and there is little tension, and it is pretty predictable. So apart from the ending, the last 20-30 minutes, so the previous one is pretty okay. Really, it's a pleasure to watch it. So, like I've said, it's not as bad as they paint it out to be, as they make it to be. You know, that's a real shame that the father of the franchise, the creator, Sylvester Stallone himself, so Sly, our favorite Sly, has had this falling out with Irvin Winkler, and now he doesn't own the rights to the franchise. So I can understand how heartbroken he must feel. This is very sad, but at least, you know, there is no bad blood between him and Michael B. Jordan, or him and Dolph Lundgren. I can understand that he's very salty with Irvin Winkler. He's pissed off at him because, you know, this is his creation, his life. This is the story of his life a little bit, you know, starting from zero, moving to hero. Right, from nothing to everything. So betting everything on one horse or one chance. So I can understand it. This is his child. This is his heritage, his legacy. So of course he would like to pass it on to the next generations, to his daughters, to his grandchildren. But in this case, right now, there is no consensus and there is no common ground. But maybe in the future something will change. I hope so. I keep my fingers crossed for Sly, for Sylvester Stallone, because I've always been a big fan. You know, one of my most important childhood heroes, together with Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, and those actors from the 80s and from the 90s, the action cinema. So he's my idol, and really I've always looked up to him as a person. He's very smart, intelligent, and bright, and well-built.
Nobody wants to listen to me, but when Stallone, for me, Rocky, Rambo was my hero, right?
Really, a great guy, a good fella. So I keep my fingers crossed for him, and I hope that he will regain the rights to the franchise. I hope so. I hope for the best, Sly. Keep it up. Don't lose hope. Alright guys, so I think it's just about time to wrap up this review. So I hope that you have enjoyed my take on Creed 3 and a little bit about Rocky as well. So as you all know, I'm a big fan of the Rocky franchise, not such a big fan of the Creed franchise, but still, the part number 3, it's not as bad. Maybe you should check it out. It works as a drama. As a boxing film, well, up to a point. The ending falls flat a little bit. However, if you have enjoyed my review, so please subscribe to this channel if you are not subscribed. Like this video, comment on it, comment on Creed 3, on the Rocky franchise, because there is a lot to comment on. And maybe also about Sylvester Stallone. you know, about him losing the rights to his own franchise, and maybe about Michael B. Jordan also, what the future holds for him later on, in the foreseeable time, in the foreseeable future, what happens next with the franchise, with his other projects, right? Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you have liked this video, and I hope to see you next time. You know, train hard, stay in shape, and never lose hope. Please remember about that. You're injured, I did it! This is some kind of passing the baton. This is excuse me.